First story, by Emily Thompson. It was a crisp autumn evening when my friends and I decided to embark on a hiking adventure through the dense woods of the Black Hills in South Dakota. The vibrant colors of fall painted the landscape as we set out, the rustling leaves beneath our boots adding a soothing soundtrack to our journey. We were seasoned hikers, or so we thought, and the prospect of getting lost in the woods seemed like an unlikely scenario. As twilight descended, we found ourselves deeper in the forest than we had anticipated. The once clear trail became obscured by fallen leaves, and the fading light played tricks on our senses. Laughter turned to hushed whispers as we realized we might have strayed off course. Panic set in as the realization of our predicament hit us. We decided to retrace our steps, but the forest seemed to morph and change around us. Trees that had stood tall and proud now loomed like sinister figures in the gathering darkness. The air grew colder, and an unsettling quiet settled in, broken only by the crunch of leaves beneath our feet. As we stumbled through the underbrush, a distant noise caught our attention. It was the faint sound of footsteps, rhythmic and deliberate. Fear gripped us as we strained our ears to decipher the direction of the approaching sound. The forest seemed to close in around us, and every shadow became a potential threat. The footsteps drew nearer, and we could make out the silhouette of a figure in the dim light. A hooded stranger emerged from the shadows, their face concealed in darkness. Tension hung in the air as we exchanged uneasy glances. The stranger spoke in a low, guttural voice, revealing little about their intentions. Unease turned to terror when the stranger produced a rusted knife from beneath their cloak. Without a word, they advanced towards us, and survival instincts kicked in. We scattered, weaving through the trees in a desperate attempt to escape this unexpected horror. As we sprinted through the forest, the distant sound of the stranger's footsteps persisted. Panic fueled our flight, and branches clawed at our faces in the inky darkness. It became evident that the forest itself had become our adversary, every rustle and snap amplifying our fear. Finally, we stumbled upon a clearing where the moon cast an eerie glow. Gasping for breath, we hid in the shadows, praying the stranger had lost our trail. Minutes stretched into agonizing hours as the forest held its breath. The distant footsteps faded, leaving us trembling and uncertain of our next move. When dawn finally broke, we cautiously emerged from our hiding place. The forest, now bathed in the soft light of morning, seemed innocent once more. We made our way back to civilization, haunted by the chilling encounter that had unfolded beneath the canopy of trees. Second story, by James Sullivan. It was a foggy summer night in the backwoods of Oregon when my curiosity got the better of me. Living on the outskirts of a small town surrounded by dense forests, I'd always heard tales of strange happenings beyond the tree line. One particular night, driven by a desire for adventure, I set out alone to explore the mysteries hidden in the heart of the woods. The forest, cloaked in mist, took on an otherworldly aura as I ventured deeper. My flashlight cut through the fog, revealing gnarled branches and tangled undergrowth. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant hoot of an owl. As I wandered through the labyrinth of trees, an unsettling feeling crept over me. It was as if unseen eyes were watching my every move. My pace quickened, fueled by a primal instinct urging me to escape whatever unseen presence lurked in the shadows. Suddenly, the forest came alive with a cacophony of strange noises. Whispers danced on the edge of hearing, indistinct but undeniably present. I froze, my breath catching in my throat as the whispers grew louder, surrounding me like an invisible choir. Panic set in, and I sprinted blindly through the fog, desperate to escape the ethereal voices that seemed to follow my every step. As I stumbled over roots and rocks, the forest morphed into a surreal dreamscape. Shadows danced in the periphery of my vision, and twisted forms seemed to materialize from the mist. It was a waking nightmare, and I questioned the sanity of my decision to venture into the unknown. The whispers reached a fever pitch, their unintelligible words echoing through the trees. In the heart of the forest, I stumbled upon a clearing bathed in an eerie, unnatural light. In the center stood a group of hooded figures, their faces obscured by shadows. Fear gripped me as I realized I had stumbled upon something beyond my understanding. The figures, seemingly oblivious to my presence, chanted in a language I couldn't comprehend. In the midst of their ritual, the forest itself seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. The air crackled with an unsettling electricity, and the boundary between reality and nightmare blurred. Terrified, I retreated silently, retracing my steps through the fog-draped woods. The whispers faded, and the oppressive silence returned. When I emerged from the forest, the first light of dawn painted the sky, banishing the lingering shadows of the night. I never spoke of what I witnessed, haunted by the knowledge that there are depths of the forest best left unexplored. Third Story, by Benjamin Reynolds. The sun had long dipped below the horizon, casting the dense pines of the Adirondack Forest into an inky blackness. My friends and I, avid hikers from upstate New York, found ourselves lost on an unfamiliar trail during what was supposed to be a straightforward night hike. The woods, shrouded in darkness, seemed to swallow the feeble beam of our flashlights. An uneasy tension settled among us as we stumbled through the underbrush, the trail becoming increasingly indistinguishable. We were seasoned hikers, but the disorienting blackness had stripped away our confidence. Every step felt like a gamble, and the air was thick with the scent of pine and the distant murmur of a nocturnal forest. As we trudged on, the stillness of the night was shattered by an abrupt cacophony of snapping twigs and rustling leaves. Panic seized us, and we instinctively huddled together, flashlights sweeping the shadows for any sign of movement. The forest seemed to hold its breath, and the oppressive silence that followed was more unnerving than the mysterious noises that had preceded it. It wasn't long before the forest revealed its secrets. Figures emerged from the darkness, their faces obscured by masks that seemed carved from the very bark of the trees. A chill ran down my spine as the masked intruders encircled us, their eyes gleaming in the dim light. They spoke in hushed, urgent tones, revealing a plan that sent shivers down our spines. Robbery was their intent, and the forest provided the perfect cover for their nefarious deeds. With a menacing air, the masked figures demanded our valuables, their eyes never leaving us. We complied, hands trembling as we handed over wallets, phones, and anything else that might satisfy their greed. As they disappeared into the night, our minds raced with fear and disbelief. Alone once more, we stumbled through the forest, unsure of our path but driven by the urgency to escape the nightmare that had unfolded. The distant echo of laughter reached us, carried by the wind through the towering pines, a haunting reminder that we were not alone in the darkness. Eventually, we stumbled upon a clearing where the moonlight filtered through the trees, offering a brief respite from the suffocating canopy above. It was there, under the cold gaze of the night sky, that we regrouped and summoned the courage to continue our journey out of the forest. Days later, as we recounted our harrowing experience, we couldn't shake the feeling that the forest had harbored more than just shadows and trees that night. The Adirondack Forest held secrets, and we had unwittingly become witnesses to a darker side of its mysteries. Fourth Story, by Mia Rodriguez. It was a chilly spring evening when my friends and I decided to explore the vast Shenandoah National Park in Virginia. The lush foliage, alive with the vibrant hues of new growth, beckoned us to venture deeper into the heart of the wilderness. Little did we know that this hike would lead us to a series of bizarre and unsettling events that would forever alter our perception of the natural world. As we meandered along the well-worn trails, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch and contort with every step. An eerie stillness settled over the forest, broken only by the occasional chirp of crickets and the distant hoot of an owl. We marveled at the beauty of our surroundings, oblivious to the ominous undercurrent that lurked beneath the surface. As darkness enveloped the woods, we realized that we had lost our way. Panic set in, and a sense of foreboding hung in the air. We stumbled through the underbrush, desperately trying to retrace our steps, but the dense foliage seemed to conspire against us, swallowing the trail in a tangle of thorns and vines. Amid our disorientation, we heard a low hum, a sound that seemed to vibrate through the very air we breathed. It was a dissonant melody that sent shivers down our spines. As we followed the haunting hum, the forest transformed around us. Trees contorted into grotesque shapes, and the ground beneath our feet seemed to pulsate with an otherworldly energy. A clearing emerged before us, bathed in an ethereal glow. In the center stood a circle of ancient-looking stones, their surfaces marked with strange symbols. A group of hooded figures surrounded the stones, their faces hidden in the shadows. The hum grew louder, resonating with an unnatural power that seemed to emanate from the very earth beneath us. Unable to tear our eyes away, we watched in silent horror as the figures conducted a ritual that defied all reason. Their movements were deliberate, their chanting rhythmic and unsettling. It was a dance with the unknown, a communion with forces beyond our comprehension. Suddenly, the hum reached a deafening crescendo, and the air crackled with electricity. The very fabric of reality seemed to waver as the hooded figures raised their arms to the sky. In that moment, I felt a surge of inexplicable terror, as if the natural order itself had been disrupted. As the ritual reached its climax, the forest convulsed with a primal energy. The ground trembled beneath our feet, and the air grew thick with an otherworldly presence. It was a sensory onslaught that overwhelmed our senses, leaving us paralyzed witnesses to forces beyond our understanding. When the ritual concluded, the figures dispersed into the shadows, leaving us alone in the clearing. The stones, now devoid of the arcane energy that had animated them, stood silent and inert. We stumbled away from the scene, the forest gradually returning to its normal state. Days later, as we emerged from the wilderness, we couldn't shake the feeling that we had glimpsed something ancient and malevolent. The Shenandoah National Park held secrets, and that night, we had unwittingly become part of a ritual that transcended the boundaries of the natural world. Fifth Story, by William Turner. Nestled deep within the Cascade Range of Washington State, Mount Baker National Forest offered a breathtaking backdrop for our ambitious camping expedition. Little did we anticipate that our quest for solitude and communion with nature would devolve into a nightmarish ordeal that would forever haunt our memories. The journey began with a group of friends, all seeking refuge from the demands of urban life. We pitched our tents in a secluded clearing, surrounded by towering evergreens that whispered in the gentle breeze. The scent of pine filled the air, and the distant murmur of a babbling brook completed the idyllic scene. As night descended upon the forest, we gathered around a crackling campfire, regaling each other with stories and laughter. The stars above twinkled in approval, and a sense of camaraderie enveloped our group. Little did we know that the tranquility of the woods masked a more sinister reality. The first indication of impending doom came in the form of distant, echoing footsteps. Initially dismissed as the product of an overactive imagination, the rhythmic beats persisted, growing louder with each passing moment. Unease crept into our collective consciousness as we strained to identify the source of the mysterious sounds. Then, from the shadows emerged a disheveled figure, clad in tattered clothing and bearing a haunted expression. The stranger stumbled towards us, his eyes vacant and devoid of reason. Bewilderment seized our group as we grappled with the sudden intrusion of the unknown into our peaceful retreat. The stranger mumbled incoherent words, his gaze fixated on an unseen terror only he could perceive. Our attempts to communicate were met with vacant stares, and the atmosphere around the campfire shifted from camaraderie to palpable tension. It became evident that the stranger harbored a dark secret, a truth that lay beyond the realm of our understanding. As the night wore on, the forest seemed to respond to the stranger's presence. Strange noises emanated from the shadows, whispers that carried with them an air of malevolence. The trees themselves seemed to recoil from an unseen force, their branches contorting into grotesque shapes against the moonlit sky. A sense of impending doom settled over our campsite, and the stranger's erratic behavior escalated. Shadows danced in the periphery of our vision, and the air grew thick with an oppressive energy. It was as if the forest itself had come alive, responding to an ancient and sinister call. In a moment of horrifying clarity, the stranger's vacant eyes locked onto mine. Without warning, he lunged towards me with a guttural scream, his movements driven by an unholy fervor. Panic erupted as my friends and I scrambled to defend ourselves from this unhinged assailant. The forest, now a theater of chaos, bore witness to our desperate struggle for survival. Branches tore at our clothes, and the ground beneath us became a treacherous battlefield. The stranger, possessed by an unknown force, seemed impervious to pain and reason. When dawn finally broke, the stranger's assault ceased as abruptly as it had begun. The forest, now eerily silent, revealed no trace of the mysterious intruder. We emerged from the nightmarish ordeal battered and bruised, our sense of security shattered by the inexplicable events that had unfolded. As we hiked out of Mount Baker National Forest, the beauty that had initially captivated us now seemed tainted by the memory of that fateful night. The woods held secrets, ancient and malevolent, and we had unwittingly become pawns in a nightmarish game played by forces beyond our comprehension. Sixth Story, by Charlotte Davis. In the heart of the dense Great Smoky Mountains National Park, a group of friends, including myself, embarked on a challenging hike, seeking the thrill of adventure and the promise of breathtaking views. As we ascended the winding trails, little did we know that the forest harbored not only natural wonders but also a sinister presence that would forever etch its mark upon our memories. The sun dipped below the mountain peaks, casting long shadows that stretched ominously across the forest floor. The dense canopy above filtered the fading light, creating an otherworldly ambience as we pushed deeper into the wilderness. The air grew cooler, and the distant echoes of wildlife created a symphony that lulled us into a false sense of security. As night descended, we found ourselves traversing a particularly rugged path. The trail, marked by treacherous cliffs and steep inclines, demanded our full attention. Our flashlights cut through the darkness, revealing gnarled roots and looming rock faces that seemed to close in around us. The first sign of something amiss came in the form of distant, guttural growls. Initially dismissed as the sounds of an elusive mountain predator, the menacing undertones grew louder, echoing through the valleys. Unease settled over our group as we exchanged nervous glances, our senses heightened by the encroaching darkness. The trail led us to a clearing, where the moon cast an ethereal glow upon the landscape. It was then that we spotted a campfire flickering in the distance. Intrigued and hoping to find fellow hikers, we approached cautiously, our flashlights revealing the outlines of makeshift tents and shadowy figures huddled around the flames. As we neared the campsite, the forest itself seemed to groan in protest. Strange symbols adorned the trees, and the air carried an acrid scent that hinted at something unnatural. The figures around the campfire, their faces obscured by the dancing flames, spoke in hushed tones. Their language was foreign, an unsettling blend of guttural sounds and twisted syllables that sent shivers down our spines. A sudden realization dawned upon us. We had stumbled upon a group engaged in something far more sinister than a simple camping trip. The forest had become a stage for an unknown ritual, and we were unwitting spectators to a dark ceremony that defied comprehension. The figures, now aware of our presence, turned towards us with vacant stares. Fear gripped us as we witnessed their eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. In that moment, the forest itself seemed to rebel against the intrusion, and the temperature dropped, leaving us in a chilling embrace. Without warning, the figures advanced towards us, their movements eerily synchronized. Panic set in, and we turned to flee, only to find our escape blocked by an invisible barrier. The air crackled with an unnatural energy, and the forest itself seemed to conspire against us. As we struggled against the unseen force, the figures closed in, their hands reaching out with an unholy intent. Desperation fueled our fight for freedom, and with a surge of collective strength, we broke through the barrier and sprinted through the haunted woods. The pursuit continued for what felt like an eternity, the forest itself morphing around us as if determined to keep us within its grasp. It was only when we stumbled upon a forgotten trail that the figures relented, their otherworldly chants fading into the distance. Days later, as we emerged from the Great Smoky Mountains, the memories of that harrowing night lingered like a lingering nightmare. The forest, once a symbol of natural beauty, had revealed a darker side, one tainted by ancient rituals and an unsettling force that defied explanation. The Great Smoky Mountains National Park, while still breathtaking, held secrets that transcended the boundaries of the known world. Seventh Story, by Jonathan Anderson. A remote stretch of the Appalachian Trail in North Carolina became the backdrop for an unexpected and harrowing journey that unfolded as my friends and I embarked on a week-long backpacking trip. We reveled in the idea of disconnecting from the hustle and bustle of daily life, immersing ourselves in the raw beauty of nature. Little did we anticipate that the serenity of the forest would unravel into a chilling tale of survival. Our trek took us through dense woodlands, each step revealing a new layer of the untamed wilderness. The rhythmic crunch of leaves beneath our boots and the gentle rustle of the wind through the leaves created a symphony of nature. As the sun dipped below the horizon, we set up camp, the flickering flames of our campfire casting dancing shadows on the towering trees. The tranquility of the forest lulled us into a false sense of security. It was on the third night that we noticed a disturbance in the usual sounds of the wilderness. A low, guttural growl echoed through the trees, sending a collective shiver down our spines. Dismissing it as a bear or some other nocturnal creature, we huddled closer to the fire, seeking comfort in its warm embrace. As the night deepened, the growls intensified, becoming more ominous and persistent. We scanned the surrounding darkness with our flashlights, our eyes widening with each passing second. The dense forest seemed to hold its breath, and the shadows appeared to take on a life of their own. In the flickering light, we caught glimpses of movements, figures darting between the trees, their forms barely discernible. Panic set in as the realization hit us. We were not alone in the wilderness. The once inviting woods now concealed a hidden presence, a malevolent force that watched us from the shadows. Fear crept into our campsite as we considered the possibility of encountering other backpackers or, worse yet, hostile individuals with ill intentions. The growls evolved into hushed whispers that slithered through the air, carrying an unsettling energy that permeated the very fabric of the forest. Unable to shake the feeling of being observed, we decided to pack up and move deeper into the woods, hoping to put distance between ourselves and the mysterious figures. The night air became thick with tension as we navigated the unfamiliar terrain, our flashlights revealing glimpses of unfamiliar symbols etched onto the trees. As we stumbled upon a clearing, a chilling realization washed over us. The symbols formed a pattern, one that seemed to converge towards the center of the glade. In the midst of the clearing stood a weathered altar, adorned with cryptic carvings and surrounded by a circle of stones. An unspoken understanding passed between us. We had stumbled upon something ancient and malevolent. The forest itself seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy as we gazed upon the eerie scene. The whispers grew louder, morphing into a distorted chant that seemed to emanate from the very earth beneath us. Just as dread tightened its grip, the figures emerged from the shadows, their faces concealed by hooded cloaks. The air grew colder as they encircled us, their chanting reaching a fever pitch. We were trapped in a nightmarish tableau, surrounded by an unknown cult that had claimed the heart of the wilderness as its sacred ground. The leader of the cult, distinguishable by a crimson robe, raised a gnarled staff, adorned with feathers and bones. The ritual reached its zenith, and the forest responded with a violent gust of wind that extinguished our flashlights. Darkness enveloped us, and the chant intensified, echoing through the trees. Desperation fueled our escape. Blindly, we sprinted through the forest, the haunting chants fading behind us. The symbols on the trees seemed to guide us through the labyrinth of shadows, until, finally, we stumbled upon the familiar trail that led us out of the ominous depths. Days later, as we emerged from the Appalachian Trail, we were haunted by the memories of that fateful night. The forest, once a sanctuary of natural beauty, now carried the weight of ancient rituals and malevolent forces. The tale of our backpacking trip served as a chilling reminder that even the most serene landscapes could conceal secrets that defied explanation. Eighth Story, by Olivia Martinez. Nestled in the heart of the Ozark National Forest in Arkansas, our camping trip promised adventure and the allure of untouched nature. With backpacks and tents in tow, my friends and I set out to explore the winding trails and hidden wonders that awaited us. Little did we know that the forest held secrets that would test the limits of our courage and resilience. The journey began under the warm glow of the afternoon sun, the forest bathed in a soft, golden light. We hiked along well-marked trails, the crunch of leaves beneath our boots providing a rhythmic soundtrack to our trek. The air was thick with the scent of pine, and the distant call of birds added to the symphony of the woods. As evening descended, we set up camp near a bubbling creek, the soothing sound of running water creating a tranquil backdrop. The first night passed without incident, and the flickering campfire became a beacon of camaraderie against the encroaching darkness. On the second night, however, the tranquility of the Ozark Forest began to unravel. A distant rustle in the underbrush caught our attention, accompanied by the faint murmur of voices that seemed to drift on the wind. We dismissed it as the sounds of fellow campers, attributing the unease we felt to the unfamiliarity of the terrain. As the night deepened, the rustling escalated into a cacophony of footsteps, drawing closer to our campsite. Shadows danced in the periphery of our vision, and a sense of foreboding settled over us. We huddled closer to the fire, our eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of the approaching figures. It wasn't long before the first silhouette emerged from the trees, their features obscured by the night. They moved with purpose, their movements synchronized, and their faces hidden beneath hooded cloaks. Fear gripped us as more figures joined the procession, converging on our campfire with an eerie determination. The strangers, their eyes gleaming in the firelight, spoke in hushed tones that sent shivers down our spines. Their language was foreign, a guttural dialect that seemed to echo with ancient resonance. Panic set in as we realized we were witnessing something beyond the realm of ordinary campers. This was a gathering of individuals engaged in a ritualistic ceremony. In the flickering light, the figures produced wooden masks adorned with grotesque carvings. As they donned the masks, the air thickened with an oppressive energy, and the once familiar forest took on a surreal and otherworldly aura. Unsettling symbols appeared on the trees, glowing faintly in response to the mysterious ritual. Unable to comprehend the unfolding spectacle, we remained frozen, our eyes locked on the bizarre scene. The figures moved in a synchronized dance, their movements guided by an unseen force. As the ritual reached its crescendo, the air itself seemed to vibrate with an unnatural energy. Suddenly, the masks of the figures twisted into grotesque expressions, and their eyes gleamed with an otherworldly light. In that moment, the forest itself rebelled against the intrusion. The ground trembled, and the trees contorted as if in agony. The very essence of the Ozark Forest seemed to recoil from the malevolent force that had been unleashed. As chaos unfolded, we seized the opportunity to escape. Through the distorted landscape, we navigated the tumultuous terrain, the once welcoming trails now a maze of shadows and uncertainty. The haunting echoes of the ritual persisted, driving us forward with a sense of urgency. Eventually, we emerged from the depths of the Ozark National Forest, the first light of dawn painting the sky with hues of pink and orange. The forest, now bathed in the soft glow of morning, seemed innocent once more, as if erasing all evidence of the surreal events that had transpired. As we ventured back to civilization, the memories of that harrowing night clung to us like a persistent nightmare. The Ozark Forest, once a sanctuary of natural beauty, had revealed a darker side, one that defied explanation and left us with a lingering unease. The tale of our camping trip served as a chilling reminder that the line between the known and the unknown was thinner than we dared to imagine. Ninth Story, by Samuel Walker. The haunting beauty of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park in Tennessee drew my friends and me into its depths for an unforgettable backpacking adventure. The allure of pristine wilderness and the challenge of conquering its rugged terrain overshadowed any inkling of the chilling encounters that awaited us. Little did we realize that the forest, with its towering trees and hidden mysteries, held secrets that would test our bonds of friendship and push the boundaries of our understanding. Our journey began with the sun casting its golden glow over the vast expanse of the national park. The lush foliage whispered tales of centuries-old secrets as we trekked along the winding trails. The air was filled with the symphony of nature, from the gentle rustle of leaves to the distant calls of unseen creatures. The camaraderie among us was as thick as the forest canopy, and we reveled in the anticipation of the days ahead. As the sun dipped below the horizon, we set up camp near a crystal-clear mountain stream, its soothing melody adding to the serenity of our surroundings. Our campfire crackled, casting dancing shadows on the towering trees that stood sentinel around us. The night seemed to hold the promise of adventure and camaraderie. However, as the night deepened, the forest began to come alive with unsettling sounds. A distant howl echoed through the trees, and our laughter faded into a nervous silence. We exchanged glances, attempting to decipher the origin of the eerie cries that seemed to draw closer with each passing minute. Then, from the shadows emerged a pack of wolves, their eyes gleaming with an untamed ferocity. Panic gripped us as we realized the precariousness of our situation. We clung to each other, our flashlights sweeping the surrounding darkness, searching for a way to deter the advancing predators. In the tense silence that followed, a lone figure emerged from the trees, a silhouette against the night. Dressed in tattered clothing, the stranger appeared as if out of a forgotten time. His eyes, haunted and distant, met ours with an unspoken plea for understanding. As the wolves circled, the stranger began to speak, a tale of survival, isolation, and a desperate quest for something beyond our comprehension. His presence hinted at a life spent in solitude, forging a bond with the very creatures that now threatened our existence. The forest had become his sanctuary, and the wolves his protectors. An uneasy alliance formed as we joined forces with the enigmatic stranger, navigating the precarious dance between man and beast. Together, we faced the challenge of repelling the advancing wolves while respecting the delicate balance of nature. The forest, once a backdrop for our adventure, became an arena where primal forces clashed. In the cold light of dawn, the wolves retreated, their eyes still lingering with a feral intensity. The stranger, having shared his tale, disappeared into the depths of the forest, leaving us to contemplate the fragility of our place within the natural order. Days later, as we emerged from the Great Smoky Mountains, the memories of that night lingered, a reminder that the forest, with its untamed beauty, concealed complexities that extended beyond our understanding. The tale of the lone stranger and his wolf companions became a haunting chapter in our collective adventure, forever etched in the annals of our journey through the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. 10th Story, by Eleanor Foster. The dense and ancient Redwood National and State Parks in California served as the canvas for an unforgettable camping trip that would unravel into a tale of strange phenomena and unexplainable occurrences. As my friends and I set out to immerse ourselves in the towering majesty of the redwood groves, we could not have foreseen the unsettling events that awaited us beneath the towering canopies. Our trek began beneath the colossal trees, their bark reaching skyward and their branches entwining to form a cathedral of nature. The air was tinged with the earthy scent of moss and the distant murmur of unseen wildlife. The redwood forest exuded a timeless energy, as if the very essence of the trees had witnessed centuries of secrets. As the sun dipped below the horizon, we set up camp beneath the colossal trees, our campfire casting a warm glow upon the ancient giants that surrounded us. The night was alive with the symphony of nature, crickets, owls, and the occasional rustle of creatures moving through the underbrush. Little did we know that these familiar sounds would soon transform into the backdrop of a nightmarish experience. As the darkness deepened, an unsettling stillness settled over the forest. The symphony of the night ceased abruptly, replaced by an eerie silence that hung in the air like a heavy curtain. A collective unease gripped our group as we strained to discern the cause of the sudden hush. Then, from the heart of the redwood grove, a series of inexplicable phenomena unfolded. Trees swayed with an unnatural rhythm, their branches creaking in unison. The air shimmered with an indescribable energy, and the ground beneath our feet pulsed with an invisible force. Fear etched itself across our faces as we grappled with the surreal reality of the situation. In the midst of the bizarre occurrences, a figure emerged from the shadows, a hooded individual whose silhouette seemed to meld with the towering redwoods. Their movements were deliberate, almost ethereal, as if they were attuned to the ancient heartbeat of the forest itself. Fear gripped us, and an unspoken understanding passed among us that we were witnessing something beyond the realm of the ordinary. The hooded figure spoke in a language unfamiliar to our ears, a melodic cadence that resonated with the very essence of the redwood grove. Symbols, glowing faintly, appeared on the bark of the trees, forming patterns that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. The forest had become a canvas for an unknown ritual, and we were unwitting witnesses to a ceremony that defied explanation. As the ritual unfolded, the air grew heavy with a mystical energy. Shapes materialized in the shadows, spectral forms that seemed to dance between the colossal trees. The redwoods themselves seemed to sway in response, their branches reaching towards the heavens as if communing with forces beyond our comprehension. In a climactic moment, the hooded figure raised their arms, and the forest responded with a surge of energy that reverberated through the very fabric of our reality. The ground trembled, and the air crackled with an ethereal electricity. Panic seized us as we grappled with the realization that the redwood forest, with its timeless beauty, harbored secrets that transcended the boundaries of the natural world. When dawn finally broke, the hooded figure disappeared into the shadows, leaving us with a profound sense of awe and trepidation. The redwoods, now bathed in the soft light of morning, seemed to stand sentinel over the mysteries that had unfolded beneath their towering canopies. Days later, as we emerged from the Redwood National and State Parks, the memories of that fateful night clung to us like the lingering echoes of a dream. The forest, once a symbol of majestic beauty, had become a stage for unexplainable phenomena. The tale of our camping trip served as a testament to the untamed wonders that dwelled within the ancient redwoods, a reminder that even the most revered landscapes held secrets that challenged the very limits of our understanding. Thank you for sticking with us through the whole video. Also, I recommend you this video you see on screen, one of the scariest on my channel. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and like this video. This helps me bring you more thrilling content every day. If this video sent shivers down your spine, let me know in the comments.